So last spring, I quit my job to travel and enjoy a few months outside of the Matrix. Glorious month, might I add. When I returned from my travels, my brother-in-law, Chris, offered me a month-long summer job holding down the fort at his reptile farm. I do not feel a kinship with animals. They skeeze me out. I feel nothing with them. Now, that doesn't mean I hate them. I can still appreciate them in their majestic beauty. I just have no desire to hold them or touch them. But this was a job, and I needed money. And also, Chris and my sister Kim needed me to do this because they were trying to drive their 4 kids across the country to attend a wedding in Utah. And they really did need someone to stay in their home and tend to the farm, and they didn't have anyone else they could trust to do this besides me. So I agreed. And I asked them if I could take my partner, Kate, who I'd met on my travels, along with me because, you know, unfamiliar home, rural town, not a lot of people around, nothing to do, surrounded by all these creepy animals. So I asked if I could have company. And they said no. They said they hadn't met Kate, and they weren't comfortable with a stranger in their home when they weren't there. And furthermore, apparently reptile farms are sometimes burglarized, and all the reptiles are removed right from under their noses. And so they weren't comfortable with Kate even knowing the location of their farm. So of course, Kate immediately tells everyone she knows the address of their farm. No, she didn't do that. So, I mean, it totally sucked, but I just said, okay, whatever. So I go down to this farm, which I cannot tell you where it is, obviously. And Chris, you know, he shows me the ropes, and it's a lot of what I expect. You know, it's mostly just making sure these animals have food and water, making sure they don't, you know, live in their own excrement. So he shows me these bearded dragons, he's got iguanas, he's got this blue gecko with like orange eyes, actually a couple of those. He shows me chameleons. I'm repulsed by all of this, by the way. And he's got these Chinese basilisks, which I'm excited about because of Harry Potter. And then these frogs that look exactly like Jabba the Hutt. And then these lizards in the shade that I don't remember their names, but they were very rare and special. And then he takes me down the hill to show me the giant Argentinian tegus. They are in a cage that is the size of a small cubicle. And he goes to open the door to this cage, and then he stops and he says, oh, let me grab the shovel. The shovel? And he says, yeah, you know, sometimes they get kind of rowdy and thrashy, so I use the shovel to keep them back. And I think, sir, if I will never open this door to this cage ever again. And then immediately I remember that I have to put food and water in the cage. So I think, okay, I will open this door very quickly, throw down the food and the water, lock the door, and then run. Another thing he tells me is, okay, so if one of these lizards escapes, what you want to do is wait till the nighttime, come back outside, and what you'll find is that they've probably run towards the house into the bushes, and with the flashlight you can see that they've probably gone to the very edge of a branch to go to sleep. Again, I think, sir, if one of your lizards escapes, I'm going to get into my car and drive away and never come back, because there is no way that I will be able to recapture the lizard with my hands, and I will be too ashamed to show my face to you ever again. Next to the giant Argentinian tegus. One note about the tegus. The tegus are on a 3-meal rotation. All of their meals are frozen, and so what I have to do is to take them out, put them in the sun, thaw them, and put them in their cage. The first meal is raw chicken parts. Just raw chicken parts. You throw them in there and they eat them all up, bones and all. Delicious. The second meal is raw ground turkey. And Chris says to me, oh, and you know, they really love raw eggs. So if you want to take a couple raw eggs and throw them in the turkey and, you know, mush them together with your hands like you're making meatballs, they'll eat that right up. Great. The third meal they eat are just dead white mice. They come frozen, apparently. I don't want to know what he does. And I just have to thaw them out and give one mouse each, white mouse each, to these lizards. This is repulsive and disturbing. Next to the tegus are the tortoises in this large penned-in area. Now the tortoises are by far my favorite animal on this farm because they make no sudden movements, they are not unpredictable, they move very slowly, they're very gentle, they eat the grass that they live in, and they pretty much just look like cute old men. So I'm totally into the tortoises. Next to the tortoises is this giant building that Chris has built by himself for his farm. This building smells like pungent, rotten. Just everything rotten you can ever imagine, that's what it smells like. And this is where the freezer is, where I get the tegus, lean cuisines. Also in this building in the corner, there's a savanna monitor. Over here, we've got some snakes. Then, just look like the bags of pellets that I have to carry around to all of the cages. Also in this building is the live food that Chris breeds and feeds to his animals. These are mealworms that are kept in a giant vat, and roaches. Tubs and tubs and tubs, what it felt like to me, and tubs of roaches. And when I say tub, I mean, those huge Tupperware containers that, I could crawl into and curl up in, just teeming with roaches. What I am to do is to count out 850 roaches or mealworms on alternating days to feed to the animals. And for the roaches, I can't just get in there and count them out. I have to count the babies. Because if they're mature enough to breed, he wants them in there to sustain the roach colony. So I have to sit through this with my hands and pick out 850 babies. I'm suddenly wondering why I am subjecting you to this, because my story is fucking grossing me out. Now, my sister understands life on the reptile farm, and so she gets me plastic gloves to wear, and those surgical masks, that you wear to paint and stuff. Then I have this affliction where when I put my hair back, I have these baby hairs, no matter what I do. These baby hairs that get into my nose and my face, and it's awful when I'm hot and sticky and outside. So my other sister, purchases me one of those elastic athletic headbands that I wear. So every day, I go into this building wearing my headband and my mask and my gloves to commit this calculated mass slaughter of these animals. It is hot and sticky and rank. I'm in this concrete room, and one of my worst fears is that I will sneeze. Because I sneeze into the mask. And I've got a container of roaches here just teeming inside of this container. My other hand is covered in roach. So I can't, I'll sneeze, and then of course my nose tickles. I can't touch my face, so I'll do one of these things. And then of course that pushes the stiff mask in towards me. So now my snot-covered mask is touching my face, and I cannot pull it out. So then what I do is I do one of these. To try to push the mask away. Every day I do this character building exercise. I go in, I take off all my clothes, quarantine them to wash them in scalding hot water immediately. I go upstairs and take a scalding hour-long hot shower. And then, of course, I call Kate, talk to Kate. So the first night I'm there, she's trying to get the 411 on the sitch. And she asked me, hey, so what kind of lizards you got there? Because oddly enough, and ironically enough, she likes lizards. So I'm pulling out the big guns, and I'm like, oh, we got giant Argentinian tegus and savanna monitors. Unbeknownst to me, she's Googling these things while I'm talking to her. Suddenly she flips out. Oh my God, baby, I just Googled that, and the first thing that came up was a picture of a man's mangled hand. And then the caption said that that was only a baby, and that if it was an adult, that man's hand would become jelly. I say, Caitlin, darling, you need to remove yourself from the internet. I will be okay. That's not going to happen to me. I wear plastic gloves after all. And Chris has armed me with a shovel. So I'll be fine. Now, Of course, my worst fear on this farm is not to sneeze. Along with a lizard escaping, my worst fear is that a lizard will die on my time. One night, I go to bed, wake up, go outside, and I smell something that is unusually worse outside. And I go over to the chameleon cages, and to my horror, there is a chameleon hanging by its tail from a branch, dead as a doornail. I flip out, consider getting into my car and driving away. I don't do that. And what else is there to do but just finish up my day? So I finish up my day, get back inside, I'm all showered, call Kate, I flip out. Caitlin, I have killed a lizard. A lizard is dead. I don't know what to do. I mean, I guess the logical thing to do is just to tell him and say, I'm really, really sorry, I'll pay for it. But what if this thing is worth hundreds and hundreds of dollars? I have this job because I have no money. So then she flips out and she says, can you put it in the freezer? Put it in the freezer? Yes. Maybe you can put it in the freezer now for the rest of the month. On the last day, take it out. A few days will go by before they get back, and they'll think it just died in the interim. Maybe I can put it in the freezer. No, of course I can't put it in the freezer. Clearly we're both panicking because that was a terrible suggestion to even make. If only because then I would have to touch it. So eventually, I come to my senses, and I just know that I have to tell Chris what happened and just accept the consequences. Next time I talk to him, I say, listen, I'm really, really sorry, but the chameleon in the second cage from the right in the front yard is dead. And he says, the second cage from the right, are you sure? And I say, yes. And he says, oh, okay, well, that chameleon just arrived to the farm a few days before you did. So it was probably trying to acclimate to its space. So it probably wasn't your fault, and it might have even died if I was there. Well, all right. Apparently, at farms, sometimes animals just die. Maybe it's because you handpick the baby ones to feed the other animals, or maybe it's just because they died. So I'm happy to report, for the rest of the time there, no more deaths, no prison breaks. And I even developed a routine, I got faster at what I was doing, and everything ended up fine. Now, people ask me if I would ever do this kind of thing again, or this particular thing again. And of course, when they ask me that, Kate says, hell no, she wouldn't do that again. But the reasons why I did it in the first place were because it was a job, and because my sister and her family needed my help. So if a similar situation arose where I was unemployed and they asked me for my help, I would do it again. But Kate, who is still my partner, and who has turned out not to be a reptile thief, would have to be allowed to come too.